All right, let's get up the Hunter.
Up the F1.
The
Up the
F1
who?
M1
Who
now,
are we
isn't
getting
it?
up? Who are we getting? What?
to see the Knights, where they've had a few changes, actually, as this doesn't want to work for me. Here we go. I had it clicked up. There it is there. All right, the Knights, they've lost Mitch Barnett, Jake Clifford. Oh, no. Tex Hoy. Anyway, move on. Clemmer.
LAM Player of the Year, wasn't it, Ollie?
No, that's
Oh,
you.
watch out.
No. I said he played a good game against the Roosters in round 1 last
Is
year,
this why
which
you're
he
so angry
did.
now, Oliver?
We played
Which he
two.
did. Because
Played
you,
two
I'm
really good
angry.
games in a
be-
row.
I'm angry because you mince my words. God damn it! You mix, you're conniving, conniving, whatever you want to say. You're a,
Alright.
you're a.
I'm
He's
glad
playing for Hull now.
I brought
right.
that up.
Edric Lee, Anthony Milford, Miru, Momasia, Chris Randall, Pasami Solo, Suaso, still all gone, and not many of them are in Australia anymore. Says something.
Does.
Adam Elliott's there, though, which is good.
They've gone to play for the premier competition in the
Yeah,
frickin' world,
supposedly.
the Super League. Yeah.
Greg Marshall's there, which is good. Tyson
It is.
Gamble's
No,
there.
that's
which
the
is okay.
French league.
Oh, the French.
Jack Hetherington there's, which is good. Big shoots to the bill. And Jackson Hastings there, and gives them a halfback, which is nice.
It's what they've been.
So,
Dying.
If only the Tigers had one.
so all in all, they've done pretty well this off-season, I think.
Yeah, they'll be probably second on the filling positions.
I thought you were about to say on the ladder.
No. In filling positions that they're bringing in recruits to fill positions that they needed.
They've done all right. The draw looks like this one here, which gives us a kick-off with the Warriors, Tigers, Dolphins, Canberra. Quite a nice start if they're going to be any hope this year. They play the Bulldogs twice, Dolphins, Panthers, Raiders, Sea Eagles, Sharks, Warriors, Tigers. Again, quite cosy if you're
Not horrible,
looking
but
at what's going on.
a lot of that is more 50-50 than
Well,
with outright
yes,
tip the
that's
Knights.
right. I'm
You
sure
know,
if we're looking at the other side of the
Yeah,
draw,
Raiders,
yeah.
Dogs,
They'll-
Sharks,
they will drop a
Panthers,
few of those.
Sea Eagles.
They do have a pretty tough middle part of the year there, so they'd want to get up and going early, probably for the coach's career, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right, so the mail is that Bailey Hodgson's been training at fullback. They've now got Lockie Miller as well,
Lockie Miller
who
will
will
start.
start at fullback. I assume the Jackson Hastings has gone up there and will be halfback. So he's eventually happy. He wasn't very happy about leaving. Nor were some Tigers fans, but suits this team as they finally have a bloke that's going to touch the ball 100 times a game and take the pressure off Ponga, who apparently is going to play 6 for better or worse.
Dom Young, Marzu in the
Dominic
wings?
Marzu's pretty good.
Dom Young, Marzu, yeah, absolutely on the wings.
So, do you want to run through?
Marzu's pretty much a like for Edric, realistically. Probably doesn't jump as high, but runs just as hard. Probably actually a better ball runner than Edric, and possibly a better defender. Gay Guy and Best in the centres, I would imagine. Can't see that going any other way. Ponga and Hastings in the halves, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think Ponga's ultimate position is fullback, but anyway, we'll get to that in a minute or two. I've got Hetherington and Saifidi starting props. That's Daniel Saifidi, I think, will be playing as starting prop. Jaden Brayley at hooker. Frizzell and Elliott in the back row. And Jacob Saifidi at 13. That would be my starting
Sounds
13 for
about
this
right,
team. I think Gamble will probably play the 14 role, if not Man.
Okay.
It'll either
I
be
think it'll
Man
be
or
Man.
Gamble. I think Gamble just covers a few more positions, to be honest.
Man,
I think
Man
Gamble
play most of the
Gamble can
back
go
line.
into lock and into the back row if you need to. I don't think Man realistically can go into the back row.
Man is more of a versatile player if you're looking for someone to cover the back line.
I think they'll end
but
up playing
if-
both of them, to be honest.
Okay.
I think you'll have Gamble at 14, Man at 15, Fitzgibbon at 16, and Matt Crocker from
Croker.
Matt Croker playing at 17. So
They've done well. I was prepared to get out the big black texter and wooden spoon him at one point last year for this year. But Hastings is big in. We know he's going to try. We know he's as good a defensive halfback. He's up there with Cleary as probably the best defensive halfback in the comp.
Yep.
And that's going to shore up an edge. Shore up a side. I agree. I don't think Ponga should be defending. He might not. Should be playing 6. I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if you can have people
but I don't
float
think
in
Miller
and out.
should either, to be honest.
So maybe softly Tyson Gamble does end up there at some point. But getting Jaden Brayley
I
back.
really liked what I saw out of Mapalungi at the
Yeah.
end of last year,
Fair.
to be honest. He only played 3 or 4 games, but he was quite decent in defence.
Yep.
He wasn't he's not a small guy. He's quick, good footwork, good passing game, but we'll see where that ends up at the end of the year.
And I like what Adam Elite can bring. Brings a workhorse.
Massive. Massive for him.
And Brayley being fit will be massive as well.
Realistically, I'd like to see Elliott at 13 and Saifidi on the bench, but I don't think they have anyone that can cover that back rower spot for Elliott. So
Unless Kurt Mann, I think he's a lock.
maybe if they didn't sell Barnett.
Hetherington might play back row.
I think
Hetherington probably plays back row a bit.
He could play back.
Brody
row.
Jones,
But they don't
something
really
like that.
have any front rowers either. Like if you look at
you got 2 Saifidis and that. Yeah.
Suasagi is probably the only forward that could play there. Oh, you've got Jack Johns that could probably play in the back row.
Leo Thompson was good.
Hey, Leo
when
Thompson
he played
was
it.
good.
He's
Yeah,
someone
true.
you is as an option to give maybe a bit more of a chance to maybe have a breakout year, perhaps.
No, true. But yeah, the depth does fall away a little bit out of the 17 from this side. And to be honest, there's a couple of guys in and around that bench, and the bench
average.
looks a bit soft to me. And Frizzell's going to give you everything. So is Elliott. There's question marks around Hetherington. He could take someone's head off and be out for 74 weeks because he's got that many
not under
prior load.
no more,
that's
no
why they
more
scrapped
loading.
him,
He's
didn't
clean
they?
now. He's
Oh,
sweet.
he's good.
He's good.
He's got 4 heads he can take off
Yeah,
before
he's
he
sweet now.
before
4 heads.
He can play whack-a-mole for a bit.
He's all good now. He's and
Yeah,
actually
that's true.
quite a
Yeah.
with a clear run.
Oh,
quite
he's
a
an
good pickup.
explosive front rower, back rower, wherever you want to play him. He is, he hits blokes. They know they've been hit. He runs at blokes, and they know that he's just stomped all over him as he's run past them. But yeah, he's probably that fraction over the red line. It becomes a little bit of a liability. But
All right, Ollie. What does? Sorry.
Well, I was just going to mention Ponga and the pressure that's
where I
on
was going anyway,
him
so go for your life.
at 6 because this is where he wants to play. There's been all the comparisons to Darren Lockyer moving to 6 and everything, but in 2019, Newcastle probably a bit prematurely tried moving him to 6, and it was a complete and utter failure. Now, I think if this is a complete and utter failure, he will never play 6 again, and I think this is his last chance to cement himself as a 6 in the NRL, and if he doesn't, he will be a fullback for the rest of his life, which I think he should be okay with.
What I
but
don't understand is
I think
what's wrong with being a
fullbacks
great
make more
fullback?
money
I'm not saying there's anything wrong.
I just don't
yeah,
understand the fascination.
there's nothing wrong
Well, he
with
wants
it,
to touch
but
a ball.
if he wants to, I mean, the pay's probably about the same. Like,
Well, exactly.
well,
especially
Teddy'd
if
be
you're
on
Kalen
more than
Ponga,
Munster,
like-
wouldn't he?
Easy.
So,
But if you, but put it this
fullbacks
way,
earn more money than 5'8s.
but if you're Kalen Ponga playing for Newcastle, especially someone who's just re-signed for $1 million a year or whatever it is, I don't think money comes into it. But if he does genuinely want to play 5'8" for the rest of his career, and he feels like he's best in that role, it is literally make or break, because if he doesn't do it, he will be back at fullback, and at least while he's at Newcastle, will be there for the rest of his career, because they
earning
tried him.
more money and doing less work.
Yeah, because they've tried him
like
there
we-
before. It failed. If it fails this time, I'm not saying it will or won't, but if it does, he will never play 5'8"
I've got
again.
massive concerns about it. We saw what he did in 19. Or
I think it's
19,
about
20.
He played
whatever it
about
was.
6 weeks, and
And they sacked him very, very quickly. You can't defend in the front line. There's no way in the world he can defend in the front line. Like
He's a
everyone
turnstile
goes
at
back
the
and
best
says,
of
"Oh,
time."
what about his first game of Origin when they played him at 13?"
Yeah.
look at the team he had around.
Anomaly. Like the bloke was obviously that hyped up on adrenaline that he was just smashing everything.
And
that
a
moved.
world-class side around
And
him.
There was, obviously people that can do some of his tackling for him, but he was amazing in that game. Don't get me wrong, and he's played some brilliant games for Queensland. But when do you see him do it for Newcastle or like week in, week out? The bloke's a turnstile. Like people just run past him for fun.
I agree. And then you're
don't
now
get how you defend
basically
him in
going to
the front
camp him
line.
over on the left side as well. So you're taking his sweep play out, unless he's going to float, and somehow they're going to have this magical two
Unless
fullback
Miller
sort of setup. But
floats in and out and plays a bit of
which
six
maybe
as
is what
well.
they do. But if you can do that, stay at one. I'm confused. I think it takes away his attacking prowess. I struggle to even think of him having a kicking game.
No, I haven't seen him.
So you've
It's
now
gonna
got
be all on
Hastings
Hastings.
doing 99% of the kicking, And Brayley doesn't have a kicking game either, really.
No, he's got a grubber. That's about it.
It's not that Hastings is a horrible kicker or anything,
No,
but
no,
he
he's
does
great.
benefit from someone who can probably
But a
take
point
a
of
bit of that
difference,
off of
like
him.
you've said plenty of times,
Everybody
point of
does.
difference.
Yeah.
And maybe Lockie Miller, I don't know what he provides. I don't know what he provides in terms of that. So you're
don't think
one
you're
trick
allowed to
pony
kick
in
in
terms of your
touch, are you?
final. True, no, you're not.
No,
So
it was
you
rugby
see-
sevens. he
So
played.
rugby sevens.
your final play options are basically 99% through one bloke, which I'm sure he's happy with, and he's good at doing. But it's taking edge off. You're setting up a smallish fullback who's not going to bust tackles through physicality, and a 5'8" that can't necessarily.
I mean, you dance around him.
He can dance
He's
around,
quick
but
as
he's
fuck.
yeah. So it's interesting. I like their buys. I like the. I think their forward back's going to hold its own most weeks, which is fine. Assume they all stay fit. It's a big
Yeah, their
year.
starting forward pack. That's,
Yeah, their
the
depth
rotation
is still
is going to suck.
very average, and I think there's pressure on both their centres too, who were defensively atrocious last year. Gagai had a hot 6 weeks. Him and Frizzell were going to cure cancer, and then
then
they
he
No,
couldn't
no,
make
sorry,
tackle.
sorry. I
Then he
think that was
couldn't make
Clifford
a
who was going to do
tackle.
that.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Well, that's what went wrong. It went out the window.
And Bradman Best could barely stay on the field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Bradman Best over the past couple of years has sort of just
And
dropped off a cliff completely.
And this is the thing about
Realistically, Bradman Best had about 6 good weeks. Like, in his entire
Yeah.
career, there was
And
a
it-
run of about 6 weeks when Trev was singing his song for him.
Yeah.
Everybody loved him. And he was busting tackles, and he looked like a world beater. And then he popped the leg. And
Yeah.
then he's popped the leg again and again and again. And I don't know.
so
He's defensively not up to it. He's very, very good ball runner if given time and space and all the rest of it that you want when you're running at people. But yeah.
And I mean, and when your first name's a last name, I mean,
they look. You know what? You got to say something. They did make the finals a couple of years, the last few years where we didn't think they did, and so maybe they tend to find a way to win some games. But I don't quite know what to say about this team apart from they probably. They might beat Manly, your Manly level teams, so, but that puts them around 12th through bottom 4 for me. But
they're going to have a lot
they're
more
not gonna run
direction.
last.
They'll have a lot more direction this year just in Hastings touching the ball, as you said, 150 times a game.
Yeah.
But as I said, the depth in the forward pack is it's down there with a couple of the bottom teams, to be honest. Once you get away from their top 13, there's a massive drop off. They're going to need Frizzell and Elliott to play 80 minutes. Realistically, and then someone to take up the slack when the Saifidi boys come off at different stages. Miller could be anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if after 5 or 6 weeks
they
Ponga's
give him back
at
to the
fullback
Sharks.
and
Oh,
then-
no.
no, he's sitting on the sidelines, not doing a great deal.
Would that annoy you a lot if they just completely dropped Lachlan Miller? And we could have had him in the Sharks.
He might end up back in the centres or on a wing or something
They'll find
if
something to do for
Marzu
him.
doesn't.
You generally players like that you chase that hard. I don't think you're going to give up on after.
Well, to me, he looks like either a perfect 14 or a 6, depending on where you
style
want
of
to
play we got around.
where you want to play him.
Yeah.
You can chime into the halves. You could probably play anywhere in the back line because he's quick enough, got footwork.
Yeah.
Obviously, probably needs to work on his tackling, but most outside backs do. Most outside backs aren't the best defenders in the world, so he could probably slot into most positions out there. But yes, it would annoy me quite a great deal. It's already annoyed me that they sold him in the first place.
Darn it, you scallywags.
I told you I thought he was the best fit to fucking get Moylan out of the side, which I've been campaigning for 2 years, but that's a whole nother story.
What else do we say?
I will say this about Newcastle. I think I will put them as the third team in the same mould as the Titans and Tigers, where I think probably about 11th to 17th, but I do think Newcastle will end up a bit better than both the Titans and Tigers.
I think the Saifida brothers
I
are
put
both
them on top of
under
both of those
pressure
teams.
massively.
Yeah.
Considering that they've both played for representative honours for New South Wales in the last year and a half, I'm not quite sure. I know how Daniel got there because he had a
He was
ripper
great,
year,
yeah.
and I'm not quite sure
It,
how.
well, it was weird with
Brandy actually did just
how
type the wrong number in.
yeah.
No, well,
Jacob.
But I remember when
Not sure how
when
Jacob
Jacob
got his-
yeah.
He did have a
He
good
played
run
well
of
when
3 or
he played
4 weeks
Origin.
there,
Yeah.
and he did play decent. in Origin, but there was a lot of other people that probably should have had that
yeah.
spot in front of him.
Because I remember
honest.
it being an anomaly when he first got picked. In his first
Declan-
game, he was one of the
maybe
best players.
Maybe
like,
the other starting prop at the time.
And I think Dom Young will improve again and probably be their best player for the entire year and then end up somewhere else next year.
Yeah, big year for him.
I would take him at the Titans as the real swap for Greg Marju.
I think
I'd be happy with that.
He'll end up at the Roosters.
Probably.
playing on the third wing or something, you know.
On the third wing, they'll come up with an extra wing.
We
for
never
the
talked
Roosters.
about that actually. What about they got Swahili?
Swali will go to centres and then they'll put Dom Young out.
No, but they got Tupou and Swahili on a side this year. Like, I wonder, if you've got no options, just put it in the air.
Don't bomb
Not
to
many
that
blokes
side.
are gonna
One of them's going to catch it. If one of them drops it, the other will catch it. It's all good.
There won't be any bombs
But,
over to that corner,
yeah.
I can tell you that.
I think Dom Young's in for I agree. Big year for him. And we sort of found him off the trials 2 years ago, so good on us.
Yeah, we spoke him up, and then he had a pretty
He was poor at
average
the
year
start,
for
yeah.
12 months. But then his last year was tremendous for him. The World Cup was brilliant. He was probably close to the best player in the World Cup. And yeah, well, Newcastle probably, as you mentioned, somewhere between 12th and 15th.